The time is 5:30 on August 4th, 2026. I am going to go ahead and open up the City of Durango City Council regular meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilor Gonzalez, Councilor Cosa, Councilor Yazzie. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Lawyer. Here. Mayor Woodruff.
Here. And may I please get a reading of the Indigenous Land?
This is a call to honor and respect Indigenous sovereignty and self-determination. As residents and visitors of Durango, we're called upon to educate ourselves about the history and cultural heritage of the land that we inhabit. The city of Durango is situated on the ancestral homelands and territories of the Nuchu, Ute, Jicarilla Apache, Pueblos of New Mexico, Hopi-Sinam, Hopi, and Diné Navajo nations. The original stewards of this land were forcibly removed and exposed to countless atrocities by the United States government, including repeatedly broken treaties, forced assimilation, the tragic legacy of Indian boarding schools, and the loss of ancestral homelands. We recognize lasting generational trauma exists within Native communities today. We affirm the continuing importance of ancestral sites to descendant communities as integral to the living cultural landscape. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions. May this serve as a step towards inclusion and reconciliation.
Thank you. May I please get the introduction of the translator?
Hi, good evening. My name is Liz Torres, and I am here with my colleague, Sam Guzman. Today, we will be your interpreters from the Community Language Co-op. And if you're joining us on Teams today, please go to the More menu, which is at the top right-hand corner of your screen, and you can select language from there and select English or Spanish. If you have any trouble, please let us know. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Liz Torres y estoy aquí con mi colega Sam Guzmán con la Cooperativa Comunitaria del Lenguaje. Muchas gracias por su compromiso con la justicia del lenguaje, que así todos puedan escuchar en el idioma de su corazón. El día de hoy, si usted se une a nosotros por medio de Teams, usted puede tener acceso a interpretación por medio del menú de más, que son los 3 puntitos, y ahí podrá seleccionar el idioma de su corazón. We can go ahead and get started.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, opening remarks by mayor and council. Anyone have anything for opening remarks? All right, moving on to presentation and proclamations, which I don't see any. Then that gives us to number 5, city manager updates.
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we have 5 updates this evening. And to start off with, we're going to have Scott McLean from Parks and Recreation to give us an update on e-bikes and city trails and open spaces.
Good evening, Scott McLean with the Parks and Recreation. So providing just an update on e-bikes on both the shared use path and in our open spaces. Support safety and life with Parks and Recreation. So we'll start with the shared use pass. We've had some of this information just as we talked about the trail safety management here recently, but the e-bikes that are permitted on our shared use pass are class 1 or class 2. Class 1 would be a pedal assist. The motor stops working at 20 miles an hour. The class 2 is a throttle assist, also has the pedal assist available. Again, the motor stops working at 20 miles an hour. Both of those, the motor has to be 750 watts or less, and the pedals must be fully operable. So nothing above the class 2 is permitted. So just to expand on that, so devices allowed on shared use pass, what we consider this shared use pass are the Ananas River Trail, the trail along Florida Road, Gigline Gulch, and then the trail system we have in Three Springs. Class 1 and 2 e-bikes are permitted. Electrical personal assistive mobile devices are permitted. The people-powered scooters, skateboards, skates, bicycles as well. Devices not allowed would be the class 3 e-bikes, the electric motorcycles, gas-powered vehicles, electric skateboards, low-power scooters, and electric scooters, one-wheel devices as well. So we have been working with the police department and rangers have had increased force out there, which is helping. The painting of the trail, which we had talked about probably a month or 2 ago, is occurring, started this week and is in process. So hopefully that's wrapped up and completed this week. And then just a quick map, the lines in red showing the shared use path that permits the Class 1 and 2 e-bikes, approximately 15 miles of trail that permits that. In the open space, just the Class 1 mountain bike was permitted, so similar to the shared use pass, the Class 1 is pedal assist only, motor stops at 20, no throttle assist. So the Class 2 is not permitted in the open space. The photo here is showing that the battery and motor on the more recent e-bikes mountain bikes are fitting inside the frame, so harder to discern as you see them. Motors are getting quieter, but we do have spaces where they're available. So that's what we're writing them as available in our open space. So we have the three open space areas where they are is Twin Buttes, which is about 12 miles of single track, Durango Mesa, which is approximately 14 miles of single track, and then Three Springs, while it's not city owned, it's privately owned, but the developers made that available as another 7 miles. So about 33 miles of soft surface trail that are available for mountain biking or e-bike with a Class 1. Do want to point out that in recent years, last couple of years, that through funding through the city and through Durango Mesa Foundation, that the 14 miles of trails that have been built out there are new trails that we're investing in, and those are available for e-bikes. So almost have doubled the amount we've had and continuing to add to that inventory. This map just kind of comparing where it's allowed to the other open space areas we have. So the green, Twin Buttes, Durango Mesa, Three Springs were 3 areas we just talked about. The yellow or orange, Animas City Mountain, BLM north of Horse Gulch and Grandview Ridge are all managed by the Bureau of Land Management, and the e-bikes are not permitted on those lands. On Oxbow Park and Preserve, Dalla Mountain Park, Overend Mountain Park, and Horse Gulch, those 4 open spaces all have parcels that were purchased with funds that came through Great Outdoors Colorado, which has a restriction on no motorized recreation in those areas. So just to highlight that, over the last 30 years, Great Outdoors Colorado has provided approximately $9.2 million in grant funds that communities use to purchase the open space. And as part of the requirement for those funds was to have the conservation easement on those parcels. The conservation easements just help protect the recreation conservation values for that land. And we've talked in the past that there's many communities in Colorado that have COCO funds that have used to purchase open space. They're all kind of fighting the same dynamic that we are of how there's a higher demand for e-bikes, but there is this restriction. And so far, we're not seeing any other communities making progress or getting a foothold with the conservation easements. Just to highlight, this is Horse Gulch, the area, the orange is the trail system there. The areas in green are areas that we have conservation easement. So rerouting trails and coming up with something that's effective and usable would be challenging. And then the same with the Overend Mountain Park or the test tracks. So as far as comparing and whether this is consistent with other communities, it feels like give or take our paved shared use path is fairly consistent where a lot of communities are going with the Class 1 and 2 e-bikes being permitted on the shared use or the paved trails. The single track trails varies by community. There are some communities that have not permitted it, others that have, and the conservation easements that I'm not aware of any Colorado communities that have conservation easements that permit e-bike use on the recreation areas. The easements do not permit that. The BLM updated their traffic or recreation management plan a year ago, and do not have expressed that they don't have any intention of revisiting that anytime soon. So we have continued conversations with the Plato Open Space Conservancy and checking on that. Also, we're paying attention to what other communities are doing, looking for opportunities there, so. And with that, I answer any questions.
Councilor Lawyer.
Okay. Hi, thank you
Hi.
for the update. I appreciate it. So when council previously directed staff to pursue Class 1 e-bike access, the conservation easements and the BLM, those are the constraints that we're running into.
Correct.
Is there any trails that we did not allow Class 1 e-bikes on at that time that we switched to allow?
I'm not positive on the timing, but I think Twin Buttes probably was already open. to
Yeah,
e-bikes
Twin
at
Buttes
that
was already
point,
open
so,
when we did that. I know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is there any trails? I know you talked about Horse Gulch and how it's like a patch of crossing those easements, and then same with Overend Park. Is there any trails that we could have Class 1 e-bikes on that we do not, that wouldn't be affected by like the checkerboard? Sorry, I was like writing while you were presenting too, so.
The challenge, I think, in that is going to be the management of it. And if we open up a trail and it stops here and you've got to turn around and come back, that becomes a
Let
management
me
issue. But so,
rephrase that, maybe trail systems, I guess. Well, because in Horse Gulch, you have Durango Mesa Park that connects to Horse Gulch
right.
that allows e-bikes. And so we're doing that there.
So e-bikes are permitted in Durango Mesa, and there's part of where it connects into Horse Gulch as well. Yes.
Is there signage? I mean, do you have signage saying yes, e-bikes, no e-bikes?
Yes.
Stop, no more
We-
e-bikes.
We do have signs that say no e-bikes in general at the beginning, and then there's places on the trail where they're permitted that we do
Do
have
we feel
signs.
like it's effective?
We're having a hard time keeping them in place. So no.
Okay, no, not effective. Okay, good to know. Okay, I mean, my question is there places, like, it looks like on the top left-hand corner over here, what is that, the Meadow Loop, or is that what that is over there? I don't know.
Top
where-
left corner.
Yeah. oh,
That would be
Meadows here.
the rim trail around Fort
Oh,
Lewis
rim
College.
trail.
Yeah.
So rim trail, could we say yes,
Yes.
e-bikes on the rim
Could
trail?
look at that, yes.
Okay, although it's, yeah, okay. I just am trying to see, like, we said this, council voted for it and approved it. I understand that I'm trying to find this balance between there's obstacles and can we offer more for this multi-generational community that we have, that we want to get outdoors and that are clearly advocating for this as well. And council did support it. I don't know if council still does support it, but back when we voted on it, am I the only one here left from that? Yeah, I'm the only one. It was back in Kim and Barbara and all them. Okay. Let's see here. I already asked that. Have we had direct conversations with GoCo regarding potential amendments or flexibility? Let me say, have you?
I have not had direct conversations with GoCo on that. We have with La Plata Open Space Conservancy because they are the holder of the conservation easements.
And they say, no, we're not.
Right.
And have they had conversations with them? Do you know?
I do not.
Okay.
I can find out on that and follow up with you for sure.
And there's no examples of GoCo funded projects or communities that have successfully implemented Class 1 e-bike access.
I am not aware of any conservation easements that have been amended to provide for e-bikes.
Okay. And then BLM, are we just waiting there for future policy changes, or do we have active conversations with our federal partners?
So we are involved. It's a data or the Durango Area Trails Association that we have scheduled meetings with. And so that is City of Durango, Durango Trails, GEVO, BLM, Forest Service to kind of see where other people are at and what their future looks like. As of this spring, the BLM had indicated that they are not looking at updating their recreation plan this year. Beyond that, we don't know.
Okay. Is there any, sorry, I'm kind of jumping everywhere because I'm not following my thing. Is there any recommendation that you, like right now you're saying what we're doing, like we're trying to implement what city wanted or what council wanted. We're running into obstacles. We're watching and we'll implement more when we can. Could there be a phased implementation beginning with trails that we have clear authority, like Rim Trail? Or I'm assuming this is, I don't know what's down here, whatever that is. I'm bad with maps.
So the
like a
question,
phased approach where we could like this chunk at the bottom right and this chunk at the top left. It's clear they're separate, and you could probably put like on the power line trail a sign that's like no more e-bikes, and it's one trail to get over there or whatever. Would there be a suggestion from staff that we could potentially do that one and potentially do this trail system that's on the bottom?
the section that's there on the bottom, that is the demonstration trails with Durango Mesa Park.
Oh, so that already
So that
good.
is.
We're good there.
e-bikes are
Okay, great.
permitted there. To your point, let me check into previous discussions on around the rim.
Okay. And then what about, can you go to Overland Park? Is there any like spaces there that are clearly kind of separate? No, they all overlap pretty much. Cool. Okay. I guess for me as a counselor that was on council during when we wanted class 1 pedal assist on our soft surface trails, I still continue to believe that they deserve thoughtful consideration because they help many longtime cyclists remain active, particularly older residents and those recovering from injuries. At the same time, I do recognize that we have real constraints involving GOCO funded properties, federal lands. My goal tonight isn't, necessarily to resolve every trail, but just to better understand where council has authority and how we can move forward where we do have the ability to act, I suppose. So that's my thoughts.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Scott. And I mean, for the record, I own Pedal the Peaks Bike Shop. I've owned it in Durango for 3 years. And just, Mark, is there any conflict of interest I have to ask questions, to participate?
Especially with the disclosures made, you're free to discuss it openly.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was important to share that because I probably have a little bit more data regarding sales, which we know that over 80% of our sales are e-bikes. And so we know more and more people are buying them. We know that they're going to continue to gain in popularity. And so, probably at some point, some adjustments need to be made. Maybe it just can't happen from the council. So I guess just some very basic questions for my own education. Can you explain what is a conservation easement?
So it is an easement that is legally placed on the parcel that has parameters of how that land can be used. And the name conservation easement, it is looking at ways to conserve the open space values of that parcel. I would say that there's mixed uses and desires for open space. We live in a town where a lot of the priority is the recreation and being able to ride bikes on it, but there are also people that would like to see open space as the wildlife value it brings, the ecological, being able to just go hike, not have anything mechanized. So that it's a way to balance to a degree, but also to protect the land. So that's part of our Parks and Rec, and I think GOCO's vision of having open space.
So the maintenance of the conservation easements could be in different authorities. So you have some conservation easement that might be the cities and some that might be, I don't know, a private entity or what, who might be.
That's my understanding, is that as parcels, a conservation easement, yes, a private owner could have a conservation easement on their property. So that would help ensure that property had those conservation values in perpetuity.
But each one, so for example, just in our area, is it like one, I don't want to say owner, but one entity that oversees the conservation easements?
La Plata Open Space Conservancy is the one that oversees the conservation easements that we have.
Okay, so there is, and it's, are they an independent board? Are they part of the county, or what is that?
They're an independent agency, yes.
Okay. And so I guess that's, just sort of trying to understand where that might go, because I think, it's inevitable, like more and more people are using them. I think people are using them anyway on conservation easements, on BLM land, like all over. That's been sort of the, word on the street, I'm sure you've heard, is that people are using them anyway. And so is there even an enforcement mechanism to ensure that people are not using them?
We have rangers that get out in the open space as well. I think yes, they're trying to enforce it, but we've got a lot of acreage and
It's hard to maintain. I think that
looks like a bike.
Right. I think, and then even like, what might be is it a citation? Is it like a warning? Does it depend?
I don't know if it would be a citation. I would assume it would start with the warning and then probably a citation would be possible. Yes.
Okay. So, just trying to get feedback, because I know this is a priority for many of us on the council. And I think for the reasons that Councilor Lawyer suggested about people being able to maintain fitness, people being able to just explore this beautiful space, it's supposed to be for everyone. And so if that's the case, then we need to include all people, regardless of their disabilities. But I guess that's one of the issues that has come up over and over again, at least in my world, is that nobody's enforcing it. Too many people are using it. We don't really have resources to force people to comply. So, can we then address safety concerns? Like, can we address other issues that perhaps might, I don't know, open it up to more people? And, some of the things that came to mind were better maintenance of the trails, but we don't have any oversight over the trails that are in a conservation easement or BLM. Is that correct?
We're responsible for the management of the trails on the city-owned parcels, and those are the parcels we're talking about. So the BLM, we are not involved in managing or maintenance for those trails, but the city trails we are. But the level of maintenance we do on the trails does not change the restrictions that are in the conservation easement.
No, I think it was just like, if we can do something, we should make the trail safer, because we know people are going to be using them on e-bikes. And so it was just a thought, like, it's not enforceable. You're not going to be able to enforce it. People are going to do it anyway. So let's try to make it as safe as possible. This is some feedback from constituents. And so that's where, I'm grateful with the presentation, because it is, for somebody who's seeing it for the first time laid out in this way, that we know that there's all of these different entities that are responsible for these trails and responsible for, what's so beautiful about it, being able to see, like, really, what can we do? And that's where I'm just not really seeing too much, like, not really seeing much we can do. Is that other than continue to advocate with our partners to open it up to e-bikes?
So, and I think the discussion we had about a year ago was kind of came to the same consensus. It's just that it is going to be a significant time and legal journey to make this happen, or to get something changed, and that may or may not happen after we go through that effort, and that there's not other communities that have kind of stepped out before us that have said, here's how you do it. So that is where we're at. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I look forward to continuing to sort of discuss and see what options there are. And I mean, I think they're here to stay. So, I mean, I think there's no going back. We're not going to suddenly stop using these technologies. They're in fact only getting better and more affordable and more accessible. And so, to think, oh, we're not going to allow it, like, something I think eventually will give. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Scott. Mark, can you answer, is there a legal standing for a conservation easement? Like, is there a legal basis on how we can use that?
Well, sure. I mean, my understanding is that the city has obtained certain properties that were burdened or restricted by a conservation easement. So the question becomes, if you don't make attempts to enforce that easement, you risk the person who put that property in the city's hand in the first place coming back and asking for damages, or asking for the property returned, or to just completely take away the city's use of it.
And that was my next question. What are the repercussions? I mean, worst case scenario, like, is that realistic that the GOCO could say, you're not being good stewards of that land under the agreement that we set forth initially, that we're going to take that land back? I mean, I know that would probably be a pretty extensive and probably ill-advised thing to do, but I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, I don't want to deliberately flout the law. I don't want to advocate for that. I think we need to be good stewards and act in the spirit of how we received that land in the first place. And so I guess I want to know if we're going to advocate to say, hey, they're here to stay, you can do whatever you want because we can't enforce it. What are the repercussions for that?
So my understanding would be is that La Plata Open Space Conservancy then has a responsibility to make that. I'm not sure what that leads to and where the repercussions go, but the Colorado Parks and Wildlife would be paying attention to how we're using the open space that has conservation easement on it. And
so maybe we could see anything from like more limited access to, provincial closure. I mean, it sounds like it's unprecedented kind of territory that if we.
I'm not familiar with that happening, but
What
It's
could
possible.
happen is they could go to the courts and get a judgment that then mandates that the city expend to enforce it. It could be very expensive for the city. So traditionally what you see happen is the city has to make a good faith effort to enforce provisions of the conservation easement. Mentioned that they're having trouble keeping the signs up. Well, the fact that they are replacing them and they're taking down is exactly what the expectation is. Just let the signs stay down, didn't have anybody out there patrolling, you could have a situation you were taken to court and then the court would obligate you to pay the cost of the enforcement that the easement requires. So it's a tough situation and you never know where litigation could go. Like I said earlier, you could lose the property. So the solution is for people to sit in a room, make the argument tonight, and then have an agreement to roll back those easements to a level that's acceptable. And if they're not willing to do it, they're not willing to do it because it's part of the agreement that got us the property in the first place.
Okay. Is there an ability to create easements through some of these conservation lands or through like these conservation lands? Like, is there a way to like get an easement granted for just the trail to use Class 1 mountain bikes, e-bikes? Is there?
my understanding is that would be an amendment to the conservation easement and no.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Scott. Councilor Lawyer.
One more question. So if council's goal remains to expand Class 1 access where legally possible, what specific direction or action do you need from us tonight to continue moving that work forward? Like, do we need to specifically say to you, like, we want to see that on every trail where we legally can and with signage?
I think there's two ways that I can just initially think of here. One is just continued support for Durango Mesa Park and that
Yes.
we're developing that and
Clearly.
significant funds to creating a place that does provide for that and continue to grow that. And then I guess the second would just be clear direction on if we want to try to do something different with the conservation easements and trying to amend those, but.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Okay, next up, we have the monthly flock report by Chief Current.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Bryce Current, Chief of Police here in Durango. This is the monthly flock report for June. And so this is the use by officer. We had a total of 929 searches by DPD in June. Examples are vehicle theft, drugs, assault, battery, narcotics, hit and run, damage to property, sex offenses, stolen property, DUI, etc. You can see motor vehicle theft was the top reason, 32%, followed by assault and battery, which is 10%, and so on. So this flock, this is the flock by officers or by users and a case number. So this slideshow shows the utilization by case number. A single case, as we said previously, can generate multiple searches. Any search missing a case number is audited directly with the officer. And some of the ones you see here, like alcohol offenses, arson, bribery, were examples, were test cases that we used for an auditing process. And we're able to look at those too. So council asked for the organizations requesting access, which isn't kept by Flock, and we started manual tracking. And we started that June 10th. And so since then, we accepted 10 and rejected 15 requests. Of those 10 accepted, they were rejected again on June 29th because of our procedural change. And that change was where we revoked access to all agencies except the Four Corners, which is Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. And that seems to be consistent too, talking with legislators with what's being talked about is possibly some of next year's legislation in Colorado, but we'll see. So a number of requests will also go down. This number will go down and could kind of eventually go away, so to speak. So if you remember, we reduced sharing from 648 agencies to 148, which was a 77% reduction. And also all the numbers, all that we're seeing in this entire presentation will go down significantly. Next month is when you'll start to see that. DPD is sharing with 148 organizations currently, and 1,988 organizations are sharing with us, and we lost about 20 to 25 when we stopped sharing with everyone else, which wasn't that bad. And because it's nice when they share with us, and that's after revoking access to about 500 organizations. So the custom hot list summary, and I've explained this quite a bit over the last 3 months. Following council discussion, as I repeated previously, all custom hot lists now expire after 60 days unless they're re-entered manually. So administrators review all custom hot lists and ensure that they were connected to an incident and had an expiration date. And so we added 9 custom entries in June, and 56 hot list entries were either updated or deleted. And so just a lot of the total numbers on the hot list alerts, which are different. We had 3,395 total. 663 of those are Durango's custom alerts, and 353 are other hot lists, which means from other agencies. And then official hot list alerts were 1,379, and that's CCIC and NCIC, and can also be a custom hot list at the same time. So one alert can actually count as 3 alerts, as we said previously. There were 2.9 total vehicle reads through our town, and the unique vehicle reads were 396,473. So that's just counting the single plate reads or unique reads. So stolen vehicles and recovered vehicles for June year to date. In June, we had 12 stolen vehicles reported, 1 attempted. We had 12 vehicles recovered, so that was 100%. We had 4 arrests made, which was 33%, which tends to go up to about 50%. So you have about a 90% chance of us recovering a car if you steal it, and you have about half a chance of getting away with it, which is pretty good. So year to date, January through June 26, we had 35 stolen vehicles reported, 32 vehicles recovered, so that was 91%, and 13 arrests are made, which is 37%, which that number continues to grow throughout the year, and so does the recovered actually, and can grow within the next year as well. So last year, we had 43 vehicles stolen and 41 vehicles recovered. And so Councilor Gonzalez, you had the question last week about the recovery rates and comparisons thereof. So our first camera was installed in 24, and we only had a few then. And then most recent, the cameras were installed in 25, and we have 13 total cameras currently deployed. So the state of Colorado's year-to-date recovery rate is 67%, and ours is 90%. So from 2023 is probably when I'd want to gauge it with your question to 26 now. Our recovery rate increased roughly by 10 to 15%, however you want to look at it. At first glance, that may not seem significant, or it may seem significant, but especially since Durango has already outperformed the Colorado average recovery rate for years. But that power is in the marginal gains, I believe. And so I took a little bit of liberty here. There's a case study that I absolutely love And it's on marginal gains, but Sir Dave Brailsford, he transformed the British cycling team. It's a case study. It's super cool. I'd suggest reading it if you haven't, but he just talks about how he took the team 1% or 10% better on multiple things instead of becoming, dramatically better and breaking through on one big thing, and took the team basically where they went from never winning to dominating the Olympics and the Tour de France. So that same philosophy guides our approach to public safety. Recovering more stolen vehicles is not just about returning property. It creates a ripple effect by improving crime solvability, deterring offenders, and strengthening the deterrent of being caught in Durango for crime. So combined with thoughtful investment in technology, partnerships, training, prevention, and becoming 10% better and more efficient in multiple areas while carefully balancing privacy and public safety, those small gains are compound interest to a safer Durango. So I put together a fact sheet because some of the comments last week, and I actually appreciate the comments. Skepticism of government is actually good, and I feel like it's necessary. Public safety technology should be questioned, but those discussions should be based on facts and not fear or misinformation. So recent public comments have included several inaccurate claims about automated license plate readers, APLR technology. Because both public safety and privacy are fundamental rights, it's important that the conversation remain grounded in evidence and transparency. So I just put together kind of a myth and a fact. And so one of the myths that you'll hear is that Flock uses facial recognition, and it does not. It's designed to identify vehicles and plates, not people, and it doesn't collect biometric data or perform facial recognition. A myth that it tracks people, it cannot. The cameras capture single images at one location in one moment of time. It doesn't allow, it does not allow, follow vehicles or monitor continuous improvement or provide live tracking. Another myth is that it's mass surveillance. Courts have repeatedly distinguished ALPR technology from continuous surveillance. Courts have long recognized there's generally no expectation of privacy in information knowingly exposed to the public, including what is plainly visible on public streets. A myth that police can search the database at any time. The fact is that access is restricted and everything has a digital fingerprint. Only authorized users can access the system. Each search is logged and subject to audit. Data retention is limited to 30 days currently, and after which the records are automatically deleted. And department policies determine who may access the system and for what legitimate law enforcement purpose. So some of the successes in June, we actually just arrested somebody at the transit center that we had a SWAT operation on the other day with a stolen vehicle in their yard. But that's not from June. June 2nd, an officer received a Flock alert and located an associated vehicle with a warrant, one of several warrant arrests made as a result of these alerts. On the 8th, they reported to a menacing road rage incident. And although they only had a vehicle description and no license plate, the officers were able to find the individual and successfully contact that driver. On the 22nd, they investigated a report of a male subject who followed a female victim through Walmart while exposing himself. Footage captured a partial license plate, but using the cameras, they were able to get a full license plate and go to the suspect's residence and arrest him later that evening. And the victim reported that as of 2 days after it occurred. Ongoing, this is an investigation that continues. There's multiple vehicles, especially the Kias, that were stolen as part of a juvenile joyriding group in June. The cameras data documented the vehicles passing through different areas like Durango, New Mexico, Pagosa Springs, including the dates and times. And we're helping investigators to put that together to solve that case. And there's a couple of suspects right now. And like I said, those numbers go up of who's arrested. There's several others that are involved in that we're still working on that. So our commitment, privacy is one of our most fundamental human rights. And so is the ability to live in a community where people are safe and they actually feel safe. The role of law enforcement is not to choose one over the other, but to balance safety with individual privacy through clear policies, transparency, limited retention, strict auditing, strict judicial review, which I think a lot of people forget about, and responsible use. That balance is what builds both safer communities and greater public trust. Any questions?
Councilor Lawyer.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. I appreciate you changing your stats and like adding things to the report for us as we're wanting to know more. You said on when you were talking about all the people that requested data from us and which ones were accepted and which ones were rejected. But if it were now, all of those agencies would be rejected, so we would have shared with no one.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Out of that list.
Because of the new policy where we're only sharing with people in the four corners.
Yeah. And, and I feel like it's a lot easier for me to call the Denver chief if I have a question, or the Albuquerque chief. I don't know that I'm calling the Miami chief or the Houston chief.
Yeah.
And so, so protecting the state in the four corners, but, is obviously the goal. We want as much sharing as possible, but just trying to balance that.
Yeah, and I think I appreciate you listening to our community and council about like that balance of we understand about the technology, we understand about keeping our community safe, and clearly there is successes in some regard, but also trying to balance that. And, I don't know if we'll be successful. I don't know if in a month or 2 months or 6 months from now, it's just like, listen, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Is it worth it to have these or not? And so I think that's what we're trying to tackle here as a council is like, okay, there is benefit clearly in some ways, but is it worth what we have? Does that make sense? And so I appreciate you pivoting and providing us the information that is going to help us continue to make these decisions.
Yes, and I ask that question every day.
Yeah.
And as the police chief, it'd be very easy to have friends and just make all the easy decisions. Yeah. But we would reduce public safety, and I have to balance that. Our greatest fundamental human right that I said is privacy with safety, and I'm never going to sacrifice humanity for convenience. And so I definitely ask that every day, and I take it very serious, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because public safety is very serious, and we seem to rock way too far one way when things happen that are bad, and then too far the other way when things aren't happening at all. And
I guess the question is like, are we able to have these systems in place and keep our privacy, away from the entities and the people that we don't want? Does that make sense? Are we able to balance it, or are we not? And if we're not, then maybe that's the call and we're not. But if we are, then that's better. And so I think that, as I was sitting there talking to my 19-year-old who was lecturing me on my poor decision making as a city councilor the other day, it's just about that a balance across not just with this, with e-bikes, right? Like there's so many different things that we're presented with, and you're trying to find that balance of, supporting our community and what they want to, as well as protecting us and taking care of us and trying to make the right decision. And so anyways, we probably never will make everyone happy,
but I think that is the balance.
Yeah.
Can we protect the data, and as long as we can, I agree.
And like I told my son, I'm sitting here doing the best I can. So gonna give her hell, right? Okay, there we go. That's all.
Right. Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. I guess just a few questions. Can you talk again about the cost? I've heard a variety of numbers as we've been having these discussions. So can you tell me how much is currently in the budget for this Flock system?
I think we're in the mid 70s at this point.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact number, but it's about $3,000 per camera when you talk about installation and everything else. I think the annual cost is $2,500, but you add a little bit per camera for You got to get permitting and things of that nature.
So around 70?
As I think mid-70s. I think we're close to 60,000 for the cameras. And then we have an actual camera trailer that we can attach a flock camera to if we want, but we generally don't.
And so I thought there were 21, but today you say 13. So has there
Well,
always been 13?
The
or-
number 21 is thrown around a lot, and some of that's our fault. I think that was what was originally on our website, and I think we do have some more coming. And you know, I continue to evaluate the process, and I'm really slow with where we're going to put them or if we're going to put them, because I think it's important. And I think chiefs around the country are going to get in trouble and turn it into surveillance if they have too many. And so I'm just really careful about how many we have and where we put them and when. So we have six more that we could implement here shortly. And I'm just thinking about if we're going to do that or where.
Okay, so currently 13 and it's around 70,000. I've heard a couple of different numbers thrown out, so I was just trying to get clarity. And so I know that there was a report in the paper the other day that some had been vandalized. So is that true? Is it, and in fact, I think 4 were vandalized, and then does that include within the 13 or not, or what's the status of
Those
that?
are the colleges that were vandalized. We had one that was vandalized, but we fixed it.
Oh, so those are at the college, they're not part of the
That's correct.
cities? Okay.
Yes,
Were those flock cameras?
yes.
So the university also uses the flock system?
I don't know currently.
Okay, well, then that brings up some other questions, but for your purposes, you know, I still remain very impressed with the data regarding return of vehicles. I mean, I think that should be commended just on its own. So I want to make sure I congratulate you all and your team for that effort, because I've just, again, like never quite seen such high numbers. But I guess, you know, I really just, you mentioned that we now share with 145 or 149,
148, yes, ma'am.
48 law enforcement across the region, across the 4 corners. But do we know what happens after that? Who they share with?
Well, there's an MOU that they have to understand Colorado law, and they're not to use it for immigration purposes. They're not to use it for nefarious purposes. And if any of that's violated, that they could be held liable.
But they can sell it to whomever.
Police department?
Can they sell, well, not the police department, but Flock? Can they sell the data to?
No,
know.
it's our data.
So I think that's where I
MOU.
always remain confused, because isn't it Flock's data?
No,
Once it goes to them, don't they have ownership of it?
no, they do not. It's our data. We have an MOU in place, and the data is ours. And we control it.
But we don't store it. Isn't it stored somewhere else?
Yeah, they store it.
Flock stores it, but they don't sell it to other, I mean, who knows?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chief.
Okay, next up, we have the comprehensive plan report card by Jamie Lopko from Community Development.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Jamie Lopko, the city's Community Development Director, to present some information on a comprehensive plan. The comp plan supports all areas of our strategic plan and is going to actually complement the efforts of our strategic plan. I wanted to revisit a little bit before I move on to new stuff and just remind you that the comprehensive plan is community-driven, long-range vision for what the future development looks like, provides directions for land use growth, various other things that protect the viability of Durango, and it lays the groundwork for our land use and development code to support coordinated and sustainable decision-making. Our current plan was adopted in 2017 and contains all the items that are on the slide, as well as our 3-mile plan and future land use map. And that's going to delineate the locations of land use in the city boundaries, as well as within 3 miles of the city limits. That's going to guide potential annexation. That land use is going to give us our permitted densities and zoning districts that are compatible. And so staff uses it as a guide when we review development proposals, both within the city and the joint planning area. So when I last presented about an update on the comprehensive plan, there was a question whether our current plan was implemented. So today we're going to go over that. So chapter 13 of our current plan did have an implementation table. It had 31 strategies in it. And that was supposed to achieve the goals and objectives of the plan. And I can report that 65% of those strategies have either been completed or are actively underway. I will note that 7 of the 11 that were not started are character district plans, which are not citywide efforts, but defined to a small area. And so the results show that our comprehensive plan actually did generally drive council decisions, staff work plans, capital investments, and we did have a couple that stalled over time and maybe changed direction. So let's look at things that were completed. We had 8 strategies that were completed. Some were long range plans, like our Parks and Rec master plan, a transportation plan, a transit study, a character district plan. We did amendments to our land use and development code related to signs, and we implemented our OpenGov online permitting system. So the largest chunk is going to be our ongoing strategies. There are 12 of those. 6 are on this slide and 6 on the next. So the first one of those is finalize and implement the city's housing study. It was approved in 2018, and we're actually beginning to work on the city's housing action plan, and hopefully we'll have that before you in 27. Updating the La Posta area plan. This will likely pivot to change focus a little bit and also include the Animas Air Park, so we can look at those areas jointly. Updating the Ewing Mesa master plan. That was updated to our Durango Mesa area plan in 24 and is currently under construction. Evaluating a stormwater utility to fund our capital and operation costs was discussed in 2025 and has been put on hold. Evaluating the adoption of a public facility standards. It's actually underway. Our Public Works Department is drafting a new engineering design criteria and construction specifications. In coordination with the county on transportation improvement funding. We have one successful project on that, our County Road 25251 joint funding through an IGA in 2024. Establishing a regular multi-agency forum. We do have a regional housing authority, and we have adopted our regional transportation plan as well as the La Plata County Housing Needs Assessment. Implementation and update of our sustainability action plan has been adopted in 22 and have had our first action report on that in 23. Coordination of our sewer service. Right now, we do involve the South Durango Sanitation District in our development review process. At this point, we have not reached the Loma Linda boundary, so we do not include them with anything at this point. Implement the multimodal transportation plan. We've had several projects that we've implemented there, including our college and 8th traffic calming, our Camino crossing design, Midtown safety and connectivity improvement design, Rusa Connect, 32nd Street traffic calming, downtown next steps, North Main ADA improvements, Junction Street traffic calming, Animas View Drive improvements, and West Park Avenue traffic calming. Updating our land use and development code to incorporate recommendations from all city plans and studies. City staff does evaluate the land use and development code on a regular basis and bring updates to the council as needed and as time allows. Lastly, we have our city master facility plan. That was final in 2015. This plan is likely outdated since city is now looking at creating a civic campus around the historic high school at 201 East 12th Street. Now let's take a look at the ones that have not been started at all. We do have an updating the city and county intergovernmental agreement related to our joint planning that has not been looked at this point. Developing a service agreement with the La Plata Archuleta Water District. At this point, development has not reached proximity to their boundary, so we have not pursued that. Evaluating the need to change our major street impact fee. Hasn't been updated since 2014. We did have aspirations to do, we have a Trip 2030 plan right now, which is our transportation plan that informs the major street impact fee. At the time the plan was done, there was an intent to create a Trip 2040 plan. That was not completed, so our major street impact fee has not been updated. I do believe Public Works, though, is anticipating beginning evaluation of Trip 2030. I don't know if it'd be called Trip 2040 or Trip 2050, but updating that plan to where we can then look at the major street impact fee, maybe in 27. And then preparing character district plans for various areas listed on the screen. As part of our comprehensive plan update, we're going to be evaluating if the character district plans are still an effective way to guide growth and development in those defined areas. And then we can reevaluate whether we want to continue with these specific areas for those character district plans. And lastly, I wanted, even though there's no recommendation on this presentation, I wanted to put the vision advancement tool in there, demonstrate how the comprehensive plan and the reporting implementation advance the city's vision. So with the comprehensive plan being a long-range document that guides the city's to look into the future, it advances all parts of the vision by engaging with the community to identify needs and how the city will grow to create the multi-generational, authentic, diverse, engaged, thriving, environmentally responsible community. And lastly, I wanted to throw out there, we are currently planning our community engagement for the comprehensive plan. It will begin September 1st through the 3rd. So our consultant Logan Simpson will be here on September 1st to do a short presentation to council on where we are and where we're going and next steps and engagement opportunities that will occur during those couple of days. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Appreciate the update.
Thank you. Next up is the 2025 Popular and Annual Financial Report by Heidi Weiss.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Heidi Wise, and tonight I am representing the Finance Department in presenting our second annual Popular Annual Financial Report, or PAFR, a community-friendly summary of the city's financial condition and major accomplishments over the past year. While our annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or ACFR, contains the full set of audited financial statements, the PAFR distills key highlights into an accessible format focused on how we raise revenue, how we invest public resources, and how these investments support community priorities. This report brings valuable highlights from our ACFR and presents them in a format that's engaging for the community. And before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge the significant contribution of my colleague, Rhonda Cundiff. Her work was instrumental in producing both this year's PAFR and last year's inaugural edition. Her commitment to transparent, high-quality reporting helped shape this publication. Also, huge thanks to Public Information's Office, Denise Telk, and other staff that helped proofread and provide feedback to this report. And I'll just continue as I walk you through the report. This message from the city manager reflects on a year of meaningful progress, including earning a AA+ in investment grade rating, expanding trails and community spaces, advancing sustainability efforts, improving core infrastructure, modernizing technology, and strengthening partnerships with businesses, nonprofits, and volunteers. His message emphasizes gratitude for both staff and community involvement. On this page, we highlight how the city of Durango is structured and how decisions flow through the organization. Durango operates under a council manager form of government where elected city council sets policy, direction, and priorities, and the city manager and staff carry out those priorities through day-to-day operations. The layout of this page is intentional. It shows that decisions begin with community input, move through city council at the policy level, and are then implemented by the departments and divisions that make up our organization. The mission, vision, values, and strategic plan, also shown here along the side, serve as the guiding principles that connect community priorities to the work our departments perform every day. This structure reinforces transparency and accountability while demonstrating how residents' feedback directly influences the city's operations, investments, and long-term planning. Some quick facts about Durango, including population, employees, bond rating, and miles of streets, provide a snapshot of our growing and active community. This section reminds readers of Durango's unique identity, our rich history, vibrant downtown, and world-class outdoor recreation that support both residents and visitors year-round. Summary of changes in net position. This page explains the overall improvement in the city's financial position and highlights long-term sales tax trends. Governmental activities saw notable growth supported by service revenues and capital funding. Business type utility remains activities remain steady through some capital projects were deferred to preserve healthy balances. This section also sets up the fund by fund details that follow. So next we show the breakdown of the general fund. Sales tax generated $22.29 million in 2025, making up about 44% of our total revenue in the general fund. Charges for services contributed $7.29 million, which is 15% of our total revenue in the general fund. And spending is concentrated in core services, public safety, general government, and parks and recreation. Lodgers tax continues to support tourism-related services. Funds are allocated to marketing, transportation, arts and culture, and council determined purposes according to voter-approved percentages. The city absorbed the Durango Area Tourism Office in 2025, improving transparency. We also showcase seasonal revenue patterns and the grant programs funded, totaling over 100 supported community projects. Water revenues remain stable at roughly $5.78 million, but expenses continue to rise, reaching $8.29 million in 2025, which include one-time capital expenses, which are cash funded. Aging infrastructure and increasing material and construction costs create long-term pressure on the utility. This section also highlights system capacity, daily treatment averages, distribution assets, and the essential role of water service in public health and community resiliency. Sewer revenues remain steady at about $8.36 million, with operating costs fluctuating but staying below revenues. However, deferred capital projects, required debt reserves, and debt payments mean the utility faces long-term challenges similar to the water system. Infrastructure details, including lift stations, manholes, pipelines, and treatment process, underscore the scale of operations. Trash and recycling provides essential services to thousands of residential and commercial accounts. Costs, especially recycling process costs and labor, have risen sharply, widening the gap between revenues and expenses. The city continues to explore cost containment measures and potential rate adjustments to remain financially sustainable. Then into highlighting 2025 capital project expenses. The next 2 pages show the top 3 spent projects in each fund in 2025. If a fund did not have significant project expenses to report, it was not included. So here you'll see the 2019 Streets Fund, the 2015 Parks and Multimodal Fund, and the 2025 Parks, Open Space, and Trails Fund. And then the next page highlights airport, water, and sewer capital. Then the report closes by aligning operational spending with the city's 6 strategic plan goal areas. This first page introduces this section, which explains how it differs from the other previous pages. These pages are strictly operational costs and do not include any capital, principal payments, interfund transfers, or depreciation. And this section also showcases 2025 accomplishments in each goal area. So we have organizational stewardship, innovative housing and economic development, safety and quality of life, reliable infrastructure and community connectivity, engaged and informed community, and strategic workforce development. And we wrap up by inviting community feedback and providing contact information for the finance team. That's the 2025 PAFR.
Any questions, comments? Yeah, Councilor Yazzie.
Wow, thank you, Heidi. That was real comprehensive and it was short and sweet. So I think a lot of people can understand this better than the big book.
240 pages.
So thank you for all the work that you put into putting this together.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councilor Gonzalez, I didn't see you sneak in there.
Well, this was my very favorite presentation because there's a picture of my son in.
Oh, funny.
Yes. But actually, I do love it. I mean, I think, and isn't there hard copies that people can pick up at the library and at
We just finalized this report, so I'm hoping we can print them and have them at the library or at the rec center maybe.
Yeah, I think in previous, I feel like last year I saw them at the rec center and at the library. And I really like it. This narrative, I think it tells a better story of our budget, which is it's really primarily what we do on the council is we approve a budget. And that budget reflects our values. And I think that's why this is a great presentation that I think people will understand. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to echo the same sentiments. I mean, it can condense so much information. It's just so hard to comb through all of it. To really put it in not only a easily readable document, but also one that's engaging and pretty intuitive to go through. So kudos to you and the team for putting together such a great document and really making it more friendly for people just to pick up and see where their tax dollars are being spent. So thanks for that.
Thank you. It is hard to condense it all into 17 pages. And I do want to also make sure I plug, I know I said it, but the feedback is also open to the community. We really do want to know what you want to see next year. And so this will help us build our 2026 CAFR. So thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and last up is going to be the August 2026 water supply status update by John Harris.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. John Harris, Public Works Director. This is the monthly water supply update. This is one of the ways managing that resource responsibly is one of the ways that we meet our customer demands and provide reliable infrastructure. That's one of the strategic plan goals. The good news is that I don't have a lot to update. As a matter of fact, this slide is from the USGS. They had not updated this for July. So this is the same slide you saw last month. I can tell you that the July slide looks exactly like this with different dates on the bottom. We know that the Animas and the Florida are still flowing very low. The good news, though, is that we're still able to meet our customer demand. Graphs, again, from the USGS that show discharge out of the Animas. The graphs on the left show on the right side of that graph where we were in mid-July. All the data that I have for you today is through mid-July. Really low discharge year, 178 CFS. You can see some data at the very bottom of this slide. The lowest discharge rate in recorded history was only 160 CFS. So not the worst year on record, but pretty darn close. We peaked out in the Animas in mid-May at about a little less than 1,500 CFS. So right now the Animas is flowing about 10% of what it did during the peak, which is not unusual. It's just that the peak was a lot lower this year as well. And then the data on the right compares where we were in July of this year to July in 2025. And again, in 2024, about half as much water flowing out of the Animas this year as last year, and even a lower percentage compared to 2024. That, as far as updates, that's really it. We're still able to meet our customer demand. We're back to using strictly Florida water right now. We have not had to pump out of the Animas for the last week or so. Just coincidentally, that was great news because of the rainfall and the mudslides that happened in Silverton that brought a bunch of sediment down the Animas. We would not have been able to use that water anyways. It just happened to work out in our favor that we didn't need that water last week. But we have talked a lot recently about how we move water from the Animas to the Colorado Mesa water treatment plant. And I wanted to show you some pictures of how we do that. We have a pumping station that pulls water out of the Animas just above the first drop at the Whitewater Park, it's a little bit north of the Santa Rita Water Reclamation Facility. The picture in the upper left on your screen is a landing where folks can view the river. And looking straight down from there is the picture on the lower left of the screen. There's an intake there. On the upper right of the screen, I've just walked a little bit upstream and taken a picture back so you can see that intake. And the lower right of the screen it's a little tough to see in this picture, but the way we get water in that intake is that when the Whitewater Park was built, that first drop structure dammed up water, if you will. So the water elevation at the intake is a lot higher than it is as it starts to flow down through the Whitewater Park and even in other parts of the Animas. So when you see a really low water surface elevation in the Animas, in most years and every year since we've taken water out of the Animas, we have plenty of water still to get to those pumps. And speaking of the pumps, if I back up here, this intake again flows water into a wet well that looks like this. I wanted to give you a sense of the scale of that wet well. It's probably the size of a, I don't know, maybe a 2.5 story building. There are a couple of public works employees shown in these slides. That is where water is pooled up and collected from the Animas. The picture on the left shows a plug at the intake into that wet well. You can see how much sediment we get out of the river. That's the picture on the right shows you that's probably 3 or 4 feet of sediment that has to be hand shoveled and carried out of there. There's no way to get heavy equipment down in there. So possibly a future capital project, I'll be talking to you about how we keep so much sediment out of that wet well. And then the picture on the bottom of the center of the screen, those 3 pipes are the suction lines to the 3 pumps that move water up to College Mesa Water Treatment Plant. So it's a massive operation. Most people don't get to see that. I wanted to just show you a few pictures. That intake, again, if I go back to this slide, the water level, the water surface elevation at the intake needs to be at least 4.1 feet above the wet well for those pumps to be able to work. The green line shows you that in 2018, which is our last really tough year, that water elevation was 5.82 feet, or about, you know, what, 1.5 foot, 1.7 above that minimum elevation. Right now, we're at 6.45 feet above that minimum elevation. So we have a couple, 2.5 feet of elevation to work with late in the year, right? We're more than midway through the peak season. We have less than a month to go. Hang in there with us. We're going to get through this year. But by comparison, last October when we had some big rainstorms, you know, we saw that water surface elevation at almost 11 feet above that minimum wet well level. Still in stage 1 water use restrictions at this point. I can almost guarantee you, I'm an engineer, so I always have to say almost and qualify everything, that we will not come out of stage 1. We're doing very well right now. And what is really helpful is our no watering Wednesdays, which you can see here. The blue line is our residential water use. That orange line is non-residential or commercial water use. And every one of those dips in that data is a Wednesday up until mid-July. And you can see that not only are residential customers playing nicely, so are our commercial customers. I also wanted to show you how important rain is to us here. We don't have a lot of surface storage. So unlike other communities that will gather and collect and store rainfall, we don't have that ability. But what our community does is defer their irrigation when we have a rain event. So you can see kind of to the right of the center of the graph, we had a no water Wednesday followed by some rain a day or so later, and folks did not irrigate on that day either. So rain's helpful in that way in Durango. And again, as always, we have lots of information on the city's website about our current water use restrictions and ideas and options for customers that might have questions about how they can reduce their water consumption as well. That's all I have for this month, and I'm very hopeful that when I'm back next time, we're talking about how we're coming off the peak and everything's good. Happy to answer questions for you if you have them.
Any questions or comments? All right. Thanks so much, John. Appreciate the update. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 6, committee, board, and liaison reports. Do you have any? Councilor Yazzie?
Thank you, Dave. Alrighty, so it was kind of a quiet 2 weeks for me, but on Thursday the 23rd, I participated in the National League of Cities Indigenous Leaders Network. So what it basically is, since I attended National League of Cities conference for the last few years, we have local Indigenous leaders nationally that we meet monthly, and we discuss options of what's happening on a national level with Indigenous topics. So high on our list, like here, was also water and fire at all our reservations and communities. So it was really interesting to touch bases with all of them, but that was about it. Thank you.
Had a few things going on the last couple of weeks. I had the fortune to go on a Smart 160 tour with the owner of C&J Gravel, John. Scott McLean was also present. Bob Brammer was there, Kip Koso, and a community member. We got an on-the-ground view and the scope of the project, about what was going on with it, where we were currently at, and how we move forward. And then additionally to that, I met last weekend with a few constituents that I see out in the audience there, where we kind of gave an update to other constituents that have a best interest, whether they're in Three Springs or they want more contiguous Andros River Trail to go from south to, well, I guess, east to west. But anyways, had a great conversation with everybody there. And yeah, talking about a lot about Smart 160 and how we try to finally get that rock to push up the hill. Also had a Mission Ready Durango meeting with organizers last week, where we talked about a resource fair for veterans. It's going to be on October 24th. We spoke about how we as a city, as a municipality, can support the event and other organizations that are going to be a part of it. So really looking forward to seeing how we support veterans, not only locally, but regionally with this resource fair, from anyone that's unhoused or anyone that's trying to seek out resources, and what other regional and even national partners that we can have present to show what resources we have available for some of our local veterans. And lastly, I've got my community office hours tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the library. So if you're bored at 10 a.m., come on down. Don't yell at me, but feel free to come over and have engaging conversation about what your best interest is in the community. On that note, Councilor Gonzalez, did you have anything? Okay, perfect. All right, then we will go ahead and move on to agenda item number 7, public comment on items under consideration of adoption.
Public comment is encouraged on agenda items set for consideration and a vote by the council tonight. Public comments on items not set for consideration by the council come later in the meeting. Please begin your comments by stating the agenda item set for a vote you intend to speak on, your full name, and if you are a resident of the city of Durango. Make your comments directly to the council. Do not expect a response from the council or staff. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, unless modified by the council. Unused time is not transferable to other speakers. Comments must be specific to the item you identified when you began your comments. Profanity, hate speech, personally derogatory remarks, speech unrelated to the item you identified, or other speech that is disruptive to the meeting will be ruled out of order by the chair, and any remaining time will be forfeited by the speaker. Exceeding the time limit infringes on the rights of others and is out of order. Only a majority vote of the council can modify time limits. Please note, you must sign up prior to the mayor calling the item on the agenda. Signing up after the item is called will result in your name not being called to speak.
Under this item, we have 2 folks signed up to comment. First is Enrique Perez.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is Enrique Arturo Orozco Perez. I'm the Executive Director of Compañeros, Four Corners Immigrant Resource Center. When Compañeros and the Colorado Immigrants' Rights Coalition first proposed the creation of this task force following the detention of the Jaramillo Patiño family, our vision was never for the city to become another service provider. Our hopes was the city would use this opportunity to examine the unique powers that only local government possess to reduce the harm caused by immigration enforcement, strengthen accountability, and better protect our community. Instead, many of the recommendations that you are receiving tonight focus on creating services that already exist in our community. Community navigation, resource referrals, mental health support, community education, support for immigrant families, these are not gaps in our communities. For years, compañeros, the La Plata Family Centers Coalition, Voces de la Comunidad, Construyendo Poder, Apoyo, and many other organizations and coalitions have been providing these services. Compañeros alone already offers immigration legal services, resource navigation, know your rights education, emergency response coordination, and mental health programs specifically designed for newly arrived immigrant families. Rather than asking how the city could use its unique authority to protect immigrant residents, these recommendations largely recreate work that our nonprofit community is already doing every day. Communities across Colorado have shown that municipalities can use the authority they already possess in meaningful ways. In Glenwood Springs, city officials examined whether the local ICE facility complied with its special use permit and land use requirements. Ultimately taken action through their zoning authority. That is an example of the city asking, what authority do we have to protect our community rather than recreating nonprofit services? I would imagine that if the task force has spent 9 months exploring questions like the ones I'm about to propose, we'd be in a different space. Questions like, could Durango examine zoning, permitting, or land use issues surrounding the ICE field office in Bodo? Could we strengthen transparency and accountability around immigration enforcement? Could we establish clear protocols for city staff interacting with ICE that fully protect residents' constitutional rights while complying with Colorado law? Could we identify ways to invest in and strengthen the organizations already doing this work instead of creating parallel systems? These are the bold conversations many of us hope this task force would lead. The city does not need to become another nonprofit. The city should focus on only what the city can do. Use its municipal authority to strengthen civil rights, improve transparency, increase accountability, and pursue innovation, lawful policies that reduce harm in our community. I understand you're only receiving this recommendation tonight, but I respectfully ask City Council to reconsider these recommendations and refocus this efforts on solutions that complement and recognize, not duplicate. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak under this category is John Simpson, and he is online.
John, you should be able to unmute at this time.
Thank you. My name is John Simpson, city resident. I'm speaking tonight regarding agenda item 11.1, amending the 2026 operating budget. Before I address that agenda, I want to express a concern regarding process. Requiring public comment before staff gives their presentation forces citizens to comment in the dark rather than responding to the actual facts that will be brought to you tonight. But looking at your agenda documents on page 117, there's a line item amending the water fund expenses by $17,875. While that specific dollar amount is small, taking a step back to look at a charter requires fundamental questions about financial control of the council. Let's talk about council's role. Council's financial control is at the fund level, not the micro line item level that you're asked to approve tonight. Section 12 of the city charter explicitly establishes a system of monthly financial reporting so council can stay on top of city's true financial condition without getting bogged down in the weeds. Is council doing their job? Second, is this resolution even necessary? The agenda items on page 117 show how the council has already approved an operating budget of $17.8 million. Under section 9 of the charter, the city manager already holds administrative authority to transfer unencumbered appropriations within a department to handle these minor operational shifts. Why do you need to approve this budget amendment? Budgets are only educated estimates. We get that. And staff can easily manage and should manage these routine variances internally under Section 9 without bringing these amendments forward. Next, Section 10 of the Charter explicitly governs additional appropriations. It mandates additional appropriations can only be made during the budget year if actual revenues exceed budgeted revenues and unappropriated surpluses. If you look at the budget documents, it relies on a 2026 estimated fund balance when you actually know the fund balance. We're in August 2026. You know the fund balance at the beginning of this year. You must rely on that rather than an estimated fund balance. Finally, this highlights a deeper issue. The city continues to balance budget for a water operating fund and water capital fund as if they are separate. Yet shown earlier today in your annual comprehensive report, there's only one water fund. There's not an operating and capital fund. Keeping two sets of books distorts baseline numbers and obscures true operational costs and confuses staff and council. You see in the agenda document, it says you already budgeted for 17 million. Do you really need more? I urge council to ask whether this resolution is truly required as shown in section 12 of the charter. I encourage council to direct the city manager to handle only the minor violations under section 9 and keep two sets of books. Thank you.
Hey, could I ask you to read, please, the statement regarding Mr. Simpson and his violation of the ethics provisions? I think we as council passed a provision after he got done with public comment, after his ethics hearing. Do we have a formal statement that we were supposed to read after that?
I don't have that available.
Yeah, so as part of the censure of Mr. Simpson, the council ordered that if public comments were made, if it was done live at the meeting, the statement was to be read. If it was done through email, it was supposed to be included in the minutes. I don't know the exact wording of it, but essentially just was an announcement that Mr. Simpson had been found to have violated multiple ethics provisions by our ethics board. So we'll have it next time, as it formally said, but I think that's a fair summary of what was intended, if that satisfies you.
Okay, thank you.
We'll definitely gather that for you.
Okay, is that all of public comment on agenda items under consideration?
That's the only two that signed up under this section, yes.
Excellent. May I please get a reading of the consent agenda?
8.1 is approval of minutes with 8.1.1, approval of minutes of the City Council regular meeting, July 7th, 2026. 8.1.2 is approval of minutes of the City Council special meeting, July 21st, 2026. 8.1.3 is approval of minutes of the City Council regular meeting, July 21st, 2026. 8.2 is final reading of ordinances with 8.2.1, ordinance 0-2026-037, authorizing a ground lease with Don L. Gosney and Kelly C. Gosney for Airport Hangar 1452 at the airport. 8.2.2 is ordinance 0-2026-0038, authorizing a ground lease with DBL Management LLC for Aircraft Hangar 1490 at the airport. 8.2.3 is ordinance 0-2026-0039, authorizing a ground lease with John W. Sabo for Airport Hangar at 1544 at the airport. 8.2.4 is ordinance 0-2026-0040, authorizing the city of Durango to execute a sublease with Fort Lewis College for space in the main mall to establish a collaborative community hub. 8.3 is adoption of resolution with 8.3.1, a resolution approving the allocation of round 2, 2026 Durango Creates grant funding. 8.3.2 is a resolution approving the allocation of Renew grant funding. 8.3.3 is a resolution accepting for consideration the recommendations submitted by the Durango Immigrant Task Force. 8.4, there are no administrative items. 8.5, there are no public hearing requests. 8.6 is the introduction of ordinance. With 8.6.1, an introduction of ordinance 0-2026, not numbered yet, authorizing the city of Durango to execute a lease with the Southwest Colorado Mental Health Center Incorporated, doing business as Access Health System. 8.7 is a request for excused absences, with 8.7.1, a request for an excused absence for Mayor Pro Tem Jessica Lawyer for the special and regular council meetings on July 21st, 2026.
Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can you get a roll call, please?
This.
The motion passes. 4 in favor: Shirley Gonzalez, Gilda Yazzie, Dave Woodruff, Jessica Lawyer. 1 absent: Kip Koso.
All right, thank you. No items under agenda item number 10, public hearings, and moves us on to agenda item number 11, resolutions.
11.1 is a resolution amending the 2026 operating budget.
Budget manager for the city. Today, I'm presenting several proposed mid-year amendments to the city's 2026 operating budget. These amendments support the city's strategic goal of organizational stewardship and are before you today for your review and recommendation. I'll begin with a summary of the proposed operating fund budget amendments. These requests affect 13 operating funds. The total proposed revenue budget amendments are $1,103,112. And then the total proposed expenditure budget amendments are $1,966,593. The estimated fund balance is made up of the end of the year 2025 actual fund balance and budgeted revenues and expenses. First, I'd like to address the increase in health cost for the second half of 2026. The increase in health cost affects multiple operating funds and is due to the timing of the city's insurance renewal cycle. The city's health insurance plan renews on a July to June cycle rather than the city's calendar year budget cycle. As a result, the new insurance rates take effect in July and impact only the July through December 2026 budget period. To account for these higher costs, we are requesting budget amendments for the 10 operating funds listed below, totaling $280,237. In addition, we are requesting a revenue budget increase of $594,705 in the self-insurance fund. This amount reflects both the city's and employees' share of the increased health cost for the second half of 2026. We are requesting a budget increase of $595,705 in the self-insurance fund to cover the additional health insurance premiums and claims resulting from the new rates for the July through December 2026 budget period. The first fund we'll review is the general fund revenues. On the revenue side, we're requesting a net decrease of $25,470. This includes a $69,220 reduction in marijuana fee revenue based on council's direction to reduce fees effective July 1st. It also includes a $10,000 increase in library revenue from a donation received from the Carnegie Foundation and a $33,750 increase from the housing planning grant to support the comprehensive plan update. On the expenditure side, we are requesting budget amendments totaling $196,368. $3,830 for the administrative costs associated with withdrawing the no secret police ballot measure. And then the city clerk is requesting a new full-time position by combining 2 existing part-time positions, resulting in a no net increase in cost. The city attorney office is requesting $50,000 for additional outside counsel, $20,000 for council-directed legal services from Holland and Hart, related to the No Secret Police Committee's proposed ordinance, and $30,000 for specialized legal services, including Board of Ethics, Conflict Counsel, intellectual property and trademark due diligence filings, and other matters. $10,000 for increased cost for the Westlaw Legal Research subscription. And then we are requesting $50,672 for the Wildfire and Watershed Protection Fund, which supports city, county, and fire district efforts related to wildfire mitigation and watershed protection. The Parks and Recs Department is requesting $71,866, which will restore funding that was reduced from the Recreation Center budget. These funds will support routine repairs, including costly unexpected rooftop unit repairs, reduce the risk of emergency equipment failures, and help maintain one of the city's most heavily used aging facilities. And then the library would like to have $10,000 to use the donated funds to purchase library books and other materials. Next, we have the Housing Innovation Fund. The proposed revenue increase of $413,220 is driven by 4 sources: the Twin Buttes transfer fee, the Three Springs transfer fee, and 2 housing grants, one for the Housing Action Plan and one for local planning and capacity efforts. On the expenditure side, we're requesting an increase of $113,387. This includes funding for the $45,000 Housing Plan Action Plan and $45,000 for the local planning and capacity efforts, both supported by the grant awards. We're requesting $23,387 for Homes Fund to fulfill the city's match commitment under a $100,000 contract. Next is the Conservation Trust Fund. The Parks and Rec Department is requesting $300,000 to repair the indoor water slide. The water slide tower has experienced concrete deterioration due to age, chemical exposure, and normal wear. The need for these repairs was recently identified and requires prompt attention to maintain the safety and functionality of the facility. The Conservation Trust Fund was created to account for the state lottery proceeds and may only be used for the acquisition, capital improvements, and maintenance of parks, recreation, and open space programs. The repairs to the indoor water slide qualify for funding through the Conservation Trust Fund. We also have the capital slide for that. And Scott's here to answer any questions if you guys have any on that. Next, we have the 911 Communications Fund. On the revenue side, we are recognizing an increase in reimbursement revenue from the Emergency Telephone Services Association, the ETSA. The ETSA has approved funding for an additional QA supervisor FTE and reimbursed the fund for the associated 2026 personnel cost, estimated at approximately $55,063. On the expenditure side, we are requesting $102,032 for the transfer to the general fund for administrative services that were budgeted in 2025, but the transfer was not completed. We are also requesting funding for the additional QA supervisor position. The additional supervisor will help manage increasing call volume while maintaining compliance and performance standards. Next, we have the Airport Fund. The proposed amendments include several expenditure increases totaling $236,291. $20,000 for increase in fuel costs due to elevated prices, $60,000 to fund an emergency water supply for the potable water system as part of the city's drought tolerant contingency plan, $40,000 for the replacement of the runway weather information system, which has partially failed, $29,641 for a new FTE. They're requesting an additional airport facilities and maintenance technician in Q3. $17,000 for the increase in janitorial supply costs driven by continued passenger growth, $18,000 for increased cost for runway de-icing chemicals after switching to a liquid application, And then $51,650 for unplanned replacement of 2 failed rooftop HVAC units at 820 Airport Road, leased property. Next is the trash and recycle fund. On the revenue side, we are requesting $22,350 budget increase to carry forward the remaining balance of a Colorado Water Conservation Board grant that was awarded in 2024 for the turf replacement project. On the expenditure side, we're requesting a total of $32,360. This program provides rebates for replacing irrigated turf in public right-of-ways with lower water landscaping to support water conservation. This is a rollover from the 2025 budget year. And finally, we have the transportation fund. On the revenue side, we are requesting $43,244 for the microtransit operating grant for the Support Durango Transit Services. And then on the expense side, we're requesting $13,385 for the West Park Avenue multimodal pilot installation to test design changes and address speeding and improve safety. And then $42,765 for the transportation speed management plan demonstration installation. For a total increase of $56,150. Regarding our vision alignment, the mid-year operating budget amendments align most strongly with the city's vision in the areas of authentic, thriving, and environmental responsibility. These higher scores reflect investments in affordable housing initiatives, local planning capacity, wildfire mitigation and watershed protection, water conservation, and public safety. And here's our recommended motion. If there's any questions.
And you,
Oh, you can go ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
The Durango City Council moves to approve the budget amendment by resolution amending the adopted 2026 operating budget to increase appropriated revenues and expenditures in the 911 Communications Fund, the Airport Fund, the VES Fund, the Conservation Trust Fund, the General Fund, the General Services Fund, the Housing Fund, the Tourism Fund, the Self-Insured Fund, the Sewer Fund, the Transportation Fund, the Trash and Recycle Fund, and the Water Fund for the City of Durango, Colorado.
I'll second.
Discussion? Councilor Yazzie? All right, seeing none, can I get a roll call, please?
The motion passes. 4 in favor, Dave Woodruff, Gilda Yazzie, Jessica Lawyer, Shirley Gonzalez. 1 absent, Kip Koso.
That brings us to 11.2, a resolution approving a revised affordable housing plan for the Q Apartments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and good evening, members of the public. I'm Brian Devine. I'm the city's Housing Policy and Planning Administrator, here with asking for the council's approval on a revised affordable housing plan for a project called Q Apartments. As you might expect from the title, this aligns with our strategic plan goal of innovative housing and economic development. First, just a location map to orient you. The project we're talking about is the parcel that you see in red. There we go. It's immediately west of Mercy Regional Medical Center. You can see Wilson Gulch Drive at the bottom of the image. The intersection immediately south of the project site is the intersection of Wilson Gulch and Crater Ranch Road. This is a project that was received preliminary development plan approval from City Council in 2024. At that time, fair share housing requirements did not apply to rental projects, and the current fair share ordinance exempts projects that have an existing affordability agreement with the city, of which this is one. Because fair share did not apply to this project in 2024, the city worked with the developer on a voluntary affordable housing agreement in which 25 homes would be price restricted at prices affordable to households earning between 80 and 125% of the area median income. As part of that approval, the city also agreed to offset impact fees, city impact fees for those 25 homes. So the city took on some of those costs, and in exchange, the developer voluntarily agreed to do some income and price restrictions on those 25 homes. And I should say that's 25 homes out of, at the time, 500 homes that were part of the development. The development proposal is now for 487 after being refined a little bit. In 2025, as the developer continued to work on their project, and as council is aware, the Regional Housing Alliance completed a housing needs assessment. One of the findings of that 2025 needs assessment was that the private market does a good job of providing rental homes affordable to households earning above 80% of the area median income. So when you take these two factors together, you have the city providing a subsidy in the form of fee offsets for a range of homes, some of which would be provided by the market anyway, even without the city's subsidy. In 2026, the developer submitted their final development plan for review, and with the findings of the housing needs assessment in hand, staff approached the developer to ask if they would consider revising the affordable housing plan so that it would provide needs that are identified in the housing needs assessment, and the city would no longer be subsidizing market rate or even above market rental homes. Thankfully, the developer was supportive of that approach and has proposed a revised affordable housing plan in which the total number of homes that are price restricted goes down from 25 to 18, but all of those homes would be price restricted at prices affordable to households at 80% of the area median income. So the total number goes down, but the number that's actually below what the market provides actually increase under this revised plan. And there's a more detailed discussion of how we do that in the staff report in your packet. Here is that discussion. So as you can see, the total number of below market homes increases from 12 to 18. And as a consequence of the total number of homes included in the plan decreasing, the estimated cost to the city goes down by almost $100,000. So staff are of the opinion that the proposed revision to the housing plan is superior to the 2024 plan because it increases the number of homes in the development that are below market rates and also decreases the cost to the city. I should note that this fee offset obligation is an estimate. These costs are incurred at time of building permit application. And of course, our fees are updated from time to time. So this may not be the exact fee offset obligation that the city incurs. We believe that this proposal is superior and we ask for your support. One of the reasons we like it is including more below market homes in the development helps us to be a more multi-generational, authentic, diverse and thriving community while maintaining trust with the public that we do update our agreements and our plans when we get new data. That is one of the features of the engaged side of our vision advancement tool. We do have a resolution number now, which is in your packet, which is 0071. So we would ask for a motion to approve Resolution R 2026-0071, approving a revised affordable housing plan for the Q Apartments, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R-2026-0071, approving a revised affordable housing plan for the Q Apartments.
Second.
All right, I do have just one quick question. So we're now going to have 18 of these homes that are going to be 80% and no more than 80% AMI. And that, I'm trying to remember back of all the different things I've learned with housing and everything else. Is it operating under the assumption that it's 30% is the housing burden on an income? So 30% of a home of somebody's income would be going towards housing. And then what is there going to be like a diverse allotment of like 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom units available? Or is it just going to be like more 2 and 3?
Great question. So to answer the first half of your question, yes, the state essentially provides a formula where we translate that income level into an allowable maximum rent, which is then what the property manager is allowed to charge. And that is based on 30% of a household's income going to, we have to standardize some of it, but 30% of the household's income going to housing costs. This affordable housing plan includes both studio and 1-bedroom units. The unit mix in the development as a whole does also include some larger units, but most of them are studios and 1-bedrooms.
Okay. I guess as one counselor, I'd like to see more bedroom units become available. Just, I mean, as we talk about, all the array of things that, we're only a microcosm of the world around us, in terms of what we deal with. But yeah, being able to see this community grow and develop and talk about that vision over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we're going to do it with young people and families, and we have to have a housing supply for them. I'm super thankful that the developer is voluntarily said that they're going to provide this. And I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but at the same point, I think, you guys are doing a great job. I would just like to see more multi-bedroom units become available so we can really make this a community that young families can thrive in.
We entirely agree, as does the 2025 Housing Needs Assessment. As you alluded to, in this case, this is a voluntary agreement with the developer. It is a negotiation, and they do lose more money income restricting larger units. The good news is fair share requirements do now apply to rental projects. If this project had been proposed anew today, those fair share units, the income restricted units, would have to match the unit mix overall in terms of bedroom count. So the policy now does require that of developers. At the time this was submitted, it did not. And so we've negotiated with the developer to, and full credit to them, again, for being willing to come to the table and try to meet some city needs without disrupting their financing on their project. And this is the result.
Totally agree. And that's good to know. I didn't realize that was a part of our fair share housing program, is that they had to have a perspective of different bedroom units available. So that's amazing to hear. So thank you. That's all I have. Counselor Lawyer.
Yeah, kind of on that same note. I mean, obviously affordable 80% AMI is great. They're still meeting they're meeting now more units than they were before. Great. I want to make sure, because in our strategic plan, we specifically said we do want units at 80%, at 100%, at 125%. And are we meeting those goals? Because I know like residents at Durango is all 80% AMI. 60%. Yeah. So the lower end, do we have, it would be good to have like a chart, almost like some easy to find chart where, where like all the developments, where they're falling in the 80%, 100%, 60%, 30, like wherever, how many like bedrooms, right? Is it just for the single teacher and firefighter? Is it for families? Is it for, and so that way we're meeting the needs of everybody that we can, obviously within our ability. And so I think that would be a great tool.
I would happily point you to the housing innovation page on the city's website, where we have data on every active residential project over 2 units in the city limits and in the joint planning area. We are also adding material to Engage Durango, where we can also take questions on the material a little bit more easily and provide answers. We do track all of those data against the housing needs assessment, and we continue to roll out ways where we can communicate our progress against the housing needs assessment. And actually, that's something we'll be talking with about council more in the coming year.
So when we have a developer come to us, like I know Agave has done it for the townhomes on North Main. I know, developers that are wanting to like meet us somewhere, do we push them towards a development type that we need? Like we need the 2-bedroom, the 3-bedroom house within this AMI. We need, do we help steer them a little bit if they're asking? I mean, obviously there's only so much we can do, but.
We do, consistent with the city's role of being both a partner and a policymaker and a regulator, to the extent that, we cannot dictate exactly what is built on a site unless we're a direct partner in the project. And even then we generally don't. So generally what happens is a developer will be interested either in a piece of property, and we work together to identify what's a good fit for that property in the housing needs assessment, or they will say, hey, I specialize in this thing that you say you need in your housing needs assessment. Is there any property where we could do that? So it can kind of start from either end.
Great.
Either way, developers are generally interested in meeting a need in the community because that helps them either sell or rent units faster. So we do see them using the housing needs assessment. They also conduct their own market studies for some of the details like exact bedroom counts and other details about the homes. And between those tools, we arrive at sort of this ecosystem that's delivering housing needs. We're not going to get every aspect of the housing needs assessment on every project,
Right.
but among all the projects going on in the city, we track that and kind of see what we're short, and we can make adjustments for what we try to target in our work as a result of whatever the market and our partners are not delivering.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate your hard work on this.
All right, Councilor Yazzie.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, I'm curious, do any of these, since some of them are rentals, do they qualify for the Prop 123 totals going forward?
They will not. The Prop 123 limits for rentals are 60% AMI. So for example, residences at Durango, all of those units are in our Prop 123 credits. Q apartments, none of those units will count towards Prop 123.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you for the presentation. So did you say 500 units?
That was the original proposal. The most recent version is 487 homes in up to 4 phases.
Oh, in 4 phases. Okay. And so 10 years?
There is a draft development agreement on the property, which if I'm remembering correctly, runs for 7 years.
Okay. That's ambitious. Is that realistic?
I think so. The developer has indicated they want to get started on phase 1 next year, and then future phases will be dependent on how the market performs. We have a number of large rental developments at some stage of pre-development right now. There's a lot of interest in Durango from rental property developers. So they will have a development agreement that gives them a certain amount of time to complete the project, and it will just be up to them to phase it in timing with the market and their costs and things like that.
And so given 4 phases, estimated 100 units, 125
Phase
units?
1 is the largest, I should say. I think it's about 250 in the first phase.
Okay. And then they'll bring in the rest. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, that's good news. I'm glad to hear. I think we need, I know there's a theory that we just need to build more units, and ultimately that will help us, even out. Hopefully people that they'll have more options if we have more units.
Correct.
So I'm looking forward to the product. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Just one quick one. Sorry, Brian. I don't recall reading in the packet, but do you know or recall if they will be, since they're the ones developing, will they be in the operational side afterwards? Will they continue the administrative and operative aspect of it after the build out?
My understanding is the developer intends to manage the development themselves. We are also working on a partnership with Housing Solutions for the Southwest to manage the income restricted unit specifically. That's the model we use at the Gage Apartments, another voluntary rental agreement. So Housing Solutions, the developer, and the city are working together to finalize those details.
That was gonna be my next question. So perfect. Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions.
All right. May I please get a roll call?
The motion passes. 4 in favor, Dave Woodruff, Jessica Lawyer, Gilda Yazzie, Shirley Gonzalez. 1 absent, Kip Koso.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 12, consideration of ordinances, which there are none, and moves us on to agenda item number 13, public comment on city managers not under consideration tonight.
The first person signed up to speak is Jody Fertney.
And council. My name is Jody Ferdy, and I live in Durango, Colorado for the last 23 years. I'm here to advocate for Class 1 e-bike access on our soft surface trails. We've been advocating for this for a decade, and there are dozens of communities across Colorado and in the Southwest that have been able to get Class 1 e-bike access. Oh, my thing's going wrong here, so hang on just a sec. I do feel that the La Plata Open Space has taken a hardline stance, which drastically discriminates against equitable access on our public lands. In terms of age, in terms of ability, in terms of financial access. People can't afford 2 bikes because, so if somebody can afford an e-bike and they can only access a very small portion of our trails, that is not equitable. It's like saying, let's keep the buggy whip. We live in a changing society. We live it with technology. There's shift assisted or battery powered shifting. There's battery powered gears. And now we have pedal assist. We need to meet the moment, and I really appreciate that certain members of the council are willing to do that. I have 2 friends that have stage 4 lung cancer. One has passed away, and in his last years, he bought an e-bike and used that to convalesce as he met his last moments. And it was really powerful to me that he was able to get out and do that. I have another friend, she's in the same boat, living in this community, and I feel she's got an e-bike and she is able to recreate because of her, even in spite of her diagnosis. So I really just feel it's important that council directs staff to get this done. Other communities have done it. We can change the local e-bike ordinance that is passed. We can ask the BLM to go ahead and change their policies. The fact is, other communities have done this, and I really, really encourage this community to lead. Especially, we have the 2030 Worlds coming. There's going to be a lot of people from Europe coming to this community. We need to make sure that we, just like Europe has very much embraced e-bikes, we also should be leading and not following. Thank you.
Next up is Seth.
Thank you, Council, for showing interest in basically pedal assist bikes on our open space trails. I think it's an important issue that that we're trying to grapple with as a community, and I appreciate your interest. Again, e-bikes as a fitness opportunity as well as a economic benefit to our local recreational interests is just a growing reality, and to dismiss that or ignore that, I think is painfully invisible. And we are going to host the 2030 World, and we're going to be representing the United States to the world about mountain biking, and 50% of mountain bikes in Europe are electric assist. Something less than that in the States, but we're going there. So to think that this isn't going to change the world is naive. One thing I want to call out, I believe, is an error in the presentation given to you by Scott McLean, is the conservation easements we have, most of them do prohibit motorized vehicles, which La Plata Open Space has dictated or directed that they believe electric assist bikes are motorized vehicles, which is debatable, but it's their position and they have a right to it. However, that's not true in Overland Mountain Park. I've read the easements. I don't know how many people have, but Overland Mountain Park does not prohibit motorized vehicles, and I think that's an area that we could invite pedal assist bikes tomorrow without any ability for La Plata Open Space to say otherwise. La Plata Open Space sent a letter to the city, I think a week after the city voted to invite e-bikes, or at least to direct staff to invite e-bikes onto our open space trail system. And a week after that, they sent a letter saying, no, we control these easements and we disagree. You would have to amend these easements, according to us, in order to invite e-bikes or pedal assist bikes onto these trails. I think they have a right to that position, and I think it's perfectly reasonable for us to approach them and try to amend those easements. I don't believe any progress has been made in 4 years to do that. We spend something less than 5% of our Parks and Rec O&M budget, which is about $10 million a year on open space, about 500 grand. If we spend 1% or 2% to negotiate easements and go through the legal process, that would be a great return on investment. There's probably 1,000 riders who either don't ride on most of our trails because they're abiding by the rules, or they're just doing it because they're not being monitored and they're not being penalized. Both of those are just inadequate answers and ones we shouldn't pursue. Owen Talmadge told me that he had talked with La Plata Open Space about transferring land that the city owns elsewhere in exchange for the high value recreation lands that we have, like in Horse Gulch. And there was some interest in doing so, and it never went anywhere, but I think it's an active thing that could be done and should be done, and I would encourage you to pursue it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Rick Cobb.
Hey, folks, I haven't been here in a while, but I also am advocating for continued expansion of e-bikes on the natural surface trails. I have a letter that was forwarded to me, an email from Elliot Saslow, who owns the Mountain Bike Specialist, the owner, and apparently you all have that letter dated today. And I thought it had a lot of great points, and I saw myself in a lot of these comments. So I've been riding mountain bikes for 60 years. I take that back. 40 years, bikes for 60, mountain bikes for 40. I just turned 70 this year. I am going to have my second knee replacement next month. E-bikes are a really big help for me to continue to ride. And having ridden both e-bikes and e-bikes, mountain bikes, there's no difference in the impact that we have on the trail. So I think it's an arbitrary distinction between them when the impact is exactly the same. So how can a La Plata County Open Space Conservancy support the stand that regular bikes are allowed, but e-bikes aren't, when they have exactly the same impact? It's not the type of bike, it's the rider on the bike who's going to contribute to whether people ride safely, people have good interactions with others on the trail, not the type of bike itself. So I want to encourage the city and Parks and Rec to keep negotiating with La Plata County Open Space Conservancy, because I'm not sure exactly what's gone on and what the current stance of things are. So I'd like to see that continue to expand, and whether that's with LPOSC, and maybe that's in combination with GOCO, since they fund a lot of the easements, so that may have some leverage as well. Colorado Parks and Wildlife, I think there's more levers to pull to try and move this off the current status, which seems very arbitrary to me. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Next is Meg Wilmot.
We start now, but okay. Good evening, everyone. So I spoke at the last City Hall meeting on the 21st, and I presented some concerning reports about the cameras that had been recently installed in our town. Since then, public concern has grown significantly. Just this week, we've gathered over 100 new signatures on the petition hosted by change.org, bringing the number of signatures from local Durango residents to over 1,400. One of my issues with these cameras in the town is that they are labeled as ALPR. To label this AI technology as a license plate reader seems pretty disingenuous to me. Flock is pushing legal boundaries and creating a de facto loophole. Flock and systems like it are not mere cameras. It doesn't just record what happens at an intersection. Each camera systemically logs all passerbys, little things like dings and bumper stickers, cataloging where they were and when. These are all uploaded into a centralized national database that any law enforcement officer with access to it can access at any time without oversight. We famously just saw this when a Texas law enforcement accessed over 83,000 cameras to track down a woman who had an abortion in a different state. With enough camera coverage, an officer can reconstruct the entire daily movements and routine of a citizen with little more than the click of a button. It becomes similar in effect to GPS surveillance, but without a warrant, which would usually be required by law. Our police chief stated that our data is not at risk, yet seemed to contradict himself about it when questioned. Flock Safety states that it does not sell customer data to third party or use it for advertising. They maintain that it belongs to whoever owns it, but as our police chief stated, they don't hold on to the data. So where does it go? Privacy groups like the ACLU point out that Flock uses vague, broad legal terms that allows for significant data sharing between law enforcement agencies and other unwanted disclosures. While I'm on the subject of statements given earlier, we were told we only have 13 cameras in town. Meanwhile, KSUT radio reported that we have 24 in total. I believe we were told that there are strict guardrails so that local law enforcement can't abuse this kind of tech, but I would just like to point out that there have been over 50 documented cases from this year so far in our country of Flock, this technology being abused to stalk exes, romantic partners, and just random women. In Thornton, Colorado, an officer made 20,000 searches with only 29 tied to actual cases. So as much as I respect our local police, this technology is clearly dangerous. It's an overreach of power. I recently rewatched the City Hall meeting that was held last year after that protest because of ICE taking that family. I saw many of you members express deep empathy and advocate for these families. So it's just perplexing that we are using and spending so much money on a system that seems to directly contradict those sentiments. I respectfully urge for you guys to please cancel our contract with Flock, or at least let it expire without renewal. Thank you.
Next is Mary Finley.
Hello, Mayor and councilors. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. I'm just speaking up tonight to, I'm Mary Finley. Most of you know me as Emmy. My legal name's Mary. And I am a citizen of Durango. And I'm speaking tonight about a request from the Library Neighborhood Association and the Durango Neighborhood Coalition that we sent out in a letter last week requesting a dedicated public hearing for the Tract F property that's being considered for some sort of development. And just, you all know this, but of course that's where the current Head Start is. They'll be moving soon, hopefully, into their brand new building. We've requested a public hearing. This is all in the letter, but it came out of the Durango Neighborhood Coalition is working with city staff and hopefully soon to be city councilors on a community-based land development project. We've had several meetings and interactions with city staff, one meeting and several interactions with city staff about that, and you'll be getting our revised proposal. You got an earlier proposal a while ago, so we've been working on a revision. You'll get that very soon. But because Tract F is kind of currently in play, we wanted to have this public hearing, and that directly came out of both the community land development, community-based land development proposal, and also some comments from city staff that that's a really great tool for city council to just interact with the public a little bit more. We haven't received confirmation. I'm not blaming you. We just sent it out Thursday night, so it hasn't been very long, but we'd love to get, and I know you can't answer me tonight, but an email or something just saying, yeah, we got it. And we'd love to know when we'll be able to get it on the council agenda for a discussion. Just really quickly, the reason we had a wonderful neighborhood meeting with some city staff back in May, and also in June had a really wonderful community survey with an amazing response rate. And I know you've gotten the results of both of those, but we feel that this land is so unique and such a unique cultural campus and child campus that we really want to have a public hearing that includes everyone. It is public land that includes everyone and everyone who wants to come in Durango. We just feel that this is an irreplaceable asset and the decisions we're making are going to affect generations of Durangoans for generations to come. Thank you so much for your consideration and your time.
So Mayor, we have two additional folks. One person who is online who did not sign up but does have their hand up, and another who signed up after the recording was read. If you would allow either one to speak.
Would you like to suspend the rules?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and allow both to speak.
Yeah, this would just be to suspend the rules for allowance after the fact. Sorry, thank you. Go ahead, Faye.
the first
Actually, sorry, should you get affirmation vote real
Yes.
quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
The first would be online, Jennifer Zarata.
Jennifer, you should be able to unmute now.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to make this comment. I simply wanted to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Jennifer Zaratka. I am the Executive Director of La Plata Open Space Conservancy. And I just wanted to open up the communication. I've heard a lot of inaccurate and misinformation this evening and would welcome the opportunity to speak with council, speak with city. We have not visited this issue in the just over 2 years that I've been at the helm. My apologies, I'm a Durango resident. I've lived here most of my life and worked in the community, raised kids here. And so I understand the issue well. I just wanted to, let everybody know it's a complex process and we are not about banning e-bikes. We have legal obligations to uphold the conservation values that include wildlife habitat, open space, scenic vistas, our agricultural heritage and ranching heritage. And it's not just GOCO, it's IRS regulations, it's obligations to CPW. We do work closely with Durango Mesa Parks and all of the other organizations. We are a very small nonprofit. So please, if any of you have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. Our phone number is on our webpage, lposc.org, to begin the conversation and see if we could find some solutions, but also so I hope you understand our organization, not as a scapegoat, but as members of the community trying to help move this forward, recognizing all of the varied interests in the community, not just those who want to e-bike, but those who also recognize those other conservation values. So please feel free to reach out to me. We are here and we want to be part of the conversation and have an invitation to the table. Thank you.
And the other person online is Karen Pontius.
Karen, you should be able to unmute now. Karen, if you are there, you are able to unmute right now. Council, we haven't seen that this person has made an attempt to unmute their mic.
All right, I guess we'll move on. All right, and then on to agenda item number 14, other new business. Anyone here like to propose anything under new business? Councilor Lawyer?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have you put on there and then I'll craft it before the time I need to by next Thursday to get it right. Relaxing or researching the e-bike regulations and making sure we're taking full advantage of what council has directed from the previous vote. And I know Jen Zareka personally. She's a friend of mine, and I have her email address. And so I'm going to send an email to you, Scott and Jen, and introduce you guys. And then maybe we can work on a path forward with them too, since she's newer with the conservatory. I know she got the job like a year and a half ago or something like that. So 2 years ago, something like that. So yes, but I'll shorten it down and make it pretty for you, for Jose and you. Thank you. Yes.
Any other new business? All right, move us on to adjournment. Thanks, everyone.